Welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. My name is Brenda,
And I am Michelle.
and it's our mission to build a community of lady tribes, a place to connect and grow your tribe with resources, ideas, workshops, retreats, and events. We invite you to join our inner circle and become a tribe leader. It's free!
Each week, we will start a conversation about connecting within your tribe and across all of our tribes. Our goal is to create 1,000 new lady tribes in 2022. And each episode will challenge you with a call to action. The first one is to join our inner circle. Go to tinyurl.com/myladytribe. And as a gratitude gift, we will send you a downloadable copy of Chapter 1 of Lady and the Tribe, The Awakening.
Yay! So please subscribe to be notified of a new episode each week. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today with Find Your Lady Tribe. We have Michelle virtually. Give us the Vanna wave, Michelle. Hello. And we're so excited to be sitting here with a good friend and mentor of ours, Tressen Bryant. She is with Lovin Life Coaching. And today we are going to be continuing our series on how to help a friend when. And in this interview, Tressen is really an expert on mindset as well as helping individuals through divorce in an amicable way. So today we're going to be continuing on our series about how to help a friend when they're going through a divorce. So I just want to start by saying thank you for being here. We're so lucky, aren't we, Michelle?
Thank you.
Yes.
Just a wealth of knowledge and with lots of experience and education behind her. So would you tell us all just a little bit about your experience and why you thought I might have called you on this topic?
I'd be happy to. And thank you guys for having me. It's awesome to be here. So, in 2010, I was divorced myself and I had two little kids and they were 5 and 6 years old. And it was a really scary time. And it had taken me probably, I think, maybe 2 years to make that decision because it was going to be one of the hardest decisions that I ever made. And so when I made that, the biggest pain for me was knowing that I was going to tear apart my family or feeling like I was going to tear apart my family if I decided to follow my heart. And what I needed was to get a divorce. So with that, I just made the decision with my ex-husband and let him know that I would like to divorce amicably. And that's just what I held in my mindset for that. And that's exactly what happened. And it took some time and some planning and, of course, some understanding and all of those types of things to make that happen, but it did. And since then, I've become a certified health and life coach with the Health Coach Institute and love to help people understand how they, too, can also have an amicable divorce if that's what they're choosing to do. So,
right. And we know that's really not always all up to you. You can make the decision, but that's probably only going to be, you're halfway there at that point.
That's right. But in some ways, you're almost all the way there because whatever you decide for yourself, you can live in that space regardless what the other person decides to do.
Awesome. Yeah.
You can feel amicable with yourself, with your choices, with your kids. All of those things can feel incredibly amicable. It's tough. Don't get me wrong. It's a challenge, but you can be in a really amicable space no matter what anything is going on outside of yourself.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so, this episode is all about how to help our friends who are going through this. And I think we all can come up with examples where we know of someone they just let us know, or we just kind of even, think that we've seen some signs that they may be approaching the D word.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know exactly, what to do for these friends. Because of course, we don't want to be, on sides or anything, but we are, in support of our girlfriends as much as we can be. But everybody might have a different need. And so we want to talk about, different ways to support. Michelle, did you have a question you wanted to start us off with?
No, I just wanted to say, Tressen, I wish I had that help and that resource in the same year that you were going through that was my life. And I just so wish that I would have known about you and about, what you were going through at that time too. Because I think that it, like you said, it can go two ways. And I love the way that you took it. And I think that we all have a lot to learn from that, and that it's important for anybody who's thinking about that decision and is in that couple of years leading up to that point in place to be able to have the resource and the intention setting that you have, because it makes all the difference, obviously, in what's amicable and what serves you, what doesn't. So thank you so much. That's all I wanted to say, is that, man, that's valuable stuff.
Awesome. Well, I am going to let you start with our first question.
Okay. Well, I think when I take myself back to that space and what was going on with me that I had no help and support with, I'd really think, can you tell us what you know to be the key sort of emotional needs of a woman or a man, but a woman who's facing or considering divorce, hasn't made that decision yet, but what emotional needs does present themselves when somebody's considering this?
Yeah. I think it's difficult to understand what everybody's emotions are. It's hard to say in a blanket answer what that would be, but I can take myself back to that moment, and I'm sure you probably can too. We can relate to what it felt like. I don't know about you, but what I decided to do, I was in so much worry and angst about that. I even moved into the basement while I was trying to make that decision, right? Okay, so you can relate to that. You're trying to hang on to every little bit of thread that you can possibly to maybe create staying together, if that's what you choose you want to do, or make that break as painless as it can possibly be. And I even get goosebumps thinking about that time. But, emotionally, as far as what your needs are, I would say that it's during that time, it's very good to make sure to take really good care of yourself, because you're already dealing with a lot of stress. Your thoughts are going 100 miles an hour all of the time. Mm-hmm. It depends on what your situation is. If you haven't worked, and you've been a stay-at-home mom, now you're starting to think about all sort of aspects such as, how will I support myself? If you have children, how will I support the children? Who's going to take care of who? How are we going to, your mind is literally racing. So I would say start with the basic of having friendships like these who are coming from people who are really solid. They may not understand what you're going through because maybe they haven't been through that. But I think we've all been at some point, at least with our age, through a breakup of some sort. And we know that heartbreak is tough. And of course, especially if you have children. So go to a source that is rock solid, somebody who feels really strong to you, someone who is not going to allow you to stay in your victimhood, so to speak, of the divorce, but someone who will lift you up, but also tell you the truth. So I think we need that emotional support from our girlfriends who are strong and who are willing to be honest with us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what specifically, as the girlfriend of the person who's going through, would you be a recommendation for, the first steps to be that support?
I thought about this question, this came up for me when I was thinking about meeting with you today. And the first thing I thought of is, for one, safety. Finding out if there's any sort of an unsafe situation for the person, because we have to take that into account. There are a lot of divorces that begin in a really not safe space. And they could also be in a traumatic space. So sometimes, I would say most of the time, if you're experiencing trauma in that relationship or any type of abuse, you need to get to someone who's a professional, who can spot the signs of trauma, who can help you deal with those types of things. And that's not necessarily going to be your immediate girlfriend tribe, but that tribe you can rely on to possibly connect to someone who you need to speak with first. So I would say, first of all, just check in on the safety issue, first of all, and just see what's going on there. That would be number one. And then I think listening really in an unbiased way and trying not to make any judgment at all from the very beginning, because like I said, it's really difficult to get into someone else's emotions and actually know what they're feeling, the pain they might be having. Sometimes it feels like relief to be able to think about your divorce. It's excitement. You're ready to go. I mean, it just depends on what your situation is. So just listen without trying to make a judgment for either party,
Right.
That is a difficult thing to do, right?
Because we want to either sometimes pile on, or go that,
That so-and-so.
And that may or may not be helpful, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the time, because of where they're at in their,
Yeah.
That spectrum of readiness to move on.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I think, one thing that I have learned is to listen and just let the person have a space to do that, to say what it is that they need to hear. It's so often that we are always trying to think of the next thing we're going to say to the person, right? We're always trying to think of the next answer we're going to have before we're ever even really truly being present with them and really listening to what's happening. And sometimes that may be all the person needs you to do in that minute. It's just listen, really, truly look them in the eye and just let them know you love them and just listen, and then you can go from there. But, just listening without an opinion, really, truly being there and being present is the key starter.
What did you think that maybe, in the emotions of all the situation that they're kind of going down the wrong path, even, spinning as far as going into a negative space, fear, all that.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendations for that?
I do, totally. So let me ask you this question back to that. This would be my reply. It would be, when you are faced with a challenge yourself, do you typically know that you may have the answer already inside of yourself that you're going down the wrong path?
Probably.
So we are all given this beautiful and amazing gift called intuition, and we have it. And some of us are not as tapped into it as we, as others, right? Some of us practice paying attention to that intuition, but we have a gut feeling and we know if something's wrong, and we may be in a pattern, a paradigm where we do not listen to that gut feeling. We're ignoring the intuition and we are going to head down that wrong path, right?
Right.
So in that, what you can do is try and help the person veer off that path. They have neural pathways that are happening and firing in their brain that are taking them down the same path repeatedly because it's the only path they know, right? But they're obviously looking for something when they're coming to you and asking for some help. That is like a little light at the end of the tunnel, right? And you can just say, okay, in this moment, what would make you feel better? What would you love to see happen? Right? Start trying to turn that away from the negativity and away from the hurt and the pain, and say, in this moment, what would help you feel better? And that just leads into more questions. When we get asked questions, it interrupts our brain, and our brain can truly, literally only focus on one thing at a time, right?
Right.
So if we're sitting here talking together and I'm telling you not to focus on the purple thing sitting on the chair over there, what are you thinking about?
The purple thing.
Okay, right? And so all of you are probably thinking about something purple right now, but we think we're multitasking, but we're actually switching back and forth all of the time. So a question can be a really good pattern interrupt for a person who's feeling a lot of pain and intense emotion. Asking them a question and saying, hey, you know, what would you like? What would you love? Well, how would you like this to play out? What would help you feel better? And just start with better, because they may not even know. They may have not even asked themselves if it's so wound up in the negativity or the anger or the hurt or the question of what do I do now?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Michelle, what do you got for Tressen?
Well, I am kind of curious, Tressen. When we're in those situations with our friends, to either be support or get support, what are the practical things that you would offer to a woman in that situation? You know, because sometimes you can't. I know, at least for me, I was not even able to think that there was any emotion to this, right? Because of walls or shutdown or hurt that I wasn't ready to, but yet the practical is right there in your face and needs to be done. You know, do you call the therapist first, or do you call an attorney first? And even those practical steps can be a misstep, and without some guidance and some help. So how do you like to coach people around the practical aspects of when they're going through divorce?
I think that's a great question. So there's a lot of things that come to mind, like, do you call the therapist first or do you call the attorney first? That's going to depend on your situation and how you're feeling. And also, back again, if you're feeling threatened at all, which sometimes we need to distinguish between it's a real threat or a perceived threat. Okay. Because sometimes, you know, our brain doesn't know the difference between a perceived and real threat. It thinks that a threat is a threat, right? And so I think positive, forward-focused thoughts and communication with your friend to try to help them stay, you know, is this a real threat? Is this, and then what direction do you need to go? So I think that life coaches are amazing in finding someone who who hones in on amicable divorce. I think also asking a lot of questions about how do you want this to go? And it takes you back to amicable. So if you're looking for practical and you decide you want amicable, when you hear the word attorney, does it feel amicable to you? Either one of you.
Favorite word.
Okay. So it all depends on who you go to see, because there are amicable divorce attorneys. And their whole goal is to help you work through your divorce in an amicable way. And so you can seek out these divorce attorneys, and that's their whole job. They want you to resolve in the most amicable way possible. And they're very solution-based and oriented. So if having an amicable divorce is what you choose to do and what you'd like to do, start out by searching. They're all over the place. And years ago, this was not a thing. You know, it was just get in there, get ready to fight and battle it out for what you needed, right? So I think also it helps to write things down, practical. What is it that you would like to see happen? Because it helps you get your thoughts down on a piece of paper, then where your emotions and your heart cannot really mess with them. It's like writing it out and seeing the facts in front of you. And then instead of dealing with a lot of overwhelm all at once, taking one of those pieces that you've written out and saying, this is where I need to start. So it's either going to be, maybe it is a life coach, maybe it is a therapist, maybe it's a trauma specialist and a therapist. Maybe it is calling, you know, so it depends on
calling
what
the police.
It could.
Restraining order.
Exactly.
A realtor.
Right. It could mean that. It really is. So, and you can experience so much overwhelm. I got to tell you, when I first started to decide, I was like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to live? Who are the kids going to stay with? And so I just started you got to step back, let go, and say yes to yourself and just do one thing at a time. Otherwise, the extreme overwhelm can just take over. It can cause anxiety. It can cause you really to be in the freeze mode of the fight or flight or freeze. It can cause you just to paralyze yourself and not take any action at all. And then just increase your anxiety and your depression or fear or whatever it is you're staying in. Conversely to that, you may be super excited about the fact that you're getting a divorce because you've wanted this for a really long time. So I don't want to leave that out as well, right? It's not always so painful. Sometimes you're just like, yes, I am so ready to go, right? So, but still, you go into the practical things. Okay, what is the next step? How do I want these things to play out? And also, what am I willing to let go of? That's a huge practical step. What am I willing to let go of? Be reasonable with yourself. Be honest with yourself. What do you not need anymore?
Are you talking about stuff?
I'm talking about anything that you feel like you can let go of in order to gain that freedom. Mm-hmm. Things that you do not need to take with you. Baggage, emotional baggage, things, physical things that you don't need to take with you. Relationships. What are you willing to let go of? So there's so many, oh my God, there's so many pieces when I think about all of these things and we start these conversations that come in. So I could go on about it forever, but I'll try.
I remember a girlfriend who asked for my support during her divorce, and I had no skills, and I didn't have a Tressen to help coach me to how I could support her. And I just remember that I was speechless, and that I was toolless, and I was completely unsupportive in the way that I thought it should look, or how I thought as her friend she must be feeling, because I would have felt this way if it were me. Yes. And I remember her telling me, butt out. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm out of here. And just like you say, and I was very disappointed, but it was a lesson in there for me about how different our needs are when we're there, and how important it is for somebody to meet you where you are.
Yes.
And, yes.
I think that's where asking a lot of questions comes in, because then you become a request. You become a request of the other person. What do you need support from? How can I show up for you? What do you need help? Would you like to talk about this? Would you, do you want me to tell you my suggestion? Lots of different questions. And then the person, you become a request for the person, right? And it's so funny because oftentimes we do want to go to other people and we want them to validate what it is that we're thinking or doing, right? Because sometimes we're fearful about making those decisions and we have those questions running around. In the long run, I think that's where it's so valuable to ask that person to kind of just literally sit with you for a minute and tap into what they're intuitively feeling, because I would say 99% of the time, they're already knowing or feeling a direction that they should go, and they just need to help you guide them. Because what are they going to do if they don't have you tomorrow? What are they going to do, in a moment? In that moment, one of the biggest gifts you can give someone is to show them that they are intuitive and that they do have the answers with them and within themselves, and that you believe that they do. Because what your thought and opinion is, as your girlfriend's telling you what she's going through, you may be thinking something so far, like you just said, off of what she's thinking. So questions, and actually just saying, how are you feeling? Can we just sit and kind of check in with you right now? Like, how are you literally feeling with your intuition? What direction do you feel like you need to go? And then literally be silent for a minute. Yeah. Wait for that answer. Let spirit or the divine or your source or the heart center, whatever you choose to call it, let that take its moment, have a moment to direct.
Awesome. Yes. So what about the friend that you fear is a little too excited about this next step and kind of maybe you think that they may regret some of the decisions in this moment of they've been, suppressed for too long. And they
waving the white flag.
they are like, maybe going out a lot, and you just kind of fear that they're not making the best choices. How do we support that? They're adult women,
yeah,
and or men,
Yes.
And how do you know, you don't want to lose a friendship over it, but you don't want to lose your friend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, that's really an interesting question, because I had a friend who struggled with her husband for quite some time. And I could see that it was painful for her. And what I noticed that she did was, instead of address her situation, she decided to start frequenting the bar.
Mm-hmm.
She started dating. This is while they were still married. She just decided that she wasn't really going to pay any attention or face any of it at all. And I knew it was not a healthy way, because there were still things left undone and not addressed, right? Which will come back around. It's literally the law of cause and effect. Whatever you do is going to come back to you in some sort of way, right? It's going to have some repercussion or some valuable outcome, right? So in that time, it's the same thing. It was asking questions, letting her be heard. Her husband ended up having an addiction to pornography. And it was extremely difficult for her to understand this, right? She had been with her husband for a really long time, and she did not want to leave him. And I could see that. And she did not want to break up the family. And I really feel like she felt like her husband was her best friend, but she was losing that. So when you see somebody that's making these decisions, the first thing, we can never really know what people are going through, but I think asking those questions in a really honest way. So, what can I do to support you in this time? Is there something underlying that you feel like you may not be addressing at this time? I'm just getting a feeling as your friend. Is there anything underlying that you feel like you might have missed or that you're not addressing right now that might come back? And that's a really honest question. And you can just literally say, this is the most heartfelt question I've ever had to ask you in our entire 10-year friendship or whatever, or 2-year friendship. It doesn't even matter. She's going to feel that you really care about what's going on, and she may not be ready to talk, or she's going to feel like you're really, I would say, just stay with it, because, one of my favorite authors she says, you're either in your business, you're in God's business, or you're in somebody else's business, right? And so we really, really want to help when we see this happening. Sometimes we're getting in the natural path by interjecting ourselves. We're getting in the natural path that this person needs to go to learn whatever it is they need to learn. And so I think asking questions, again, you become that request. The person either wants you to be there asking questions, or they don't, and they'll probably tell you, but they need to go through whatever it is they're going to go through, regardless of what your opinion is about the situation.
So if we're asking questions and you're truly concerned, would you ask a question like being pointed about the behavior?
You know what? I think you could say something very honest and very lovingly all at the same time, and just say, I'm noticing, that you're going out, and I don't know if I feel like this is you. Is this you right now? How does this feel to you right now? Yeah. Are you just letting it go? Are you going out and just getting out some emotion? I really, really care about you and what you're going through right now. Do you want to talk about it? Like, do you want to? Or because if you don't, ask a pointed question, ask an honest, loving, pointed question. If you feel that, you have intuition too, right? So everybody that's involved in that situation has some intuition. Tap into your own and say, is this a judgment that I'm curious about? Or is this intuition? Is this a place that I'm coming from that's saying, wow, I really, really care so much about this person. It's hurting me to see this.
Right.
What a beautiful thing to say to your friend. I care about you so much. It's hurting me to see you like this. Does that feel like a judgment to you? Or does that feel like I'm, ask them.
I love it, because at the friendship piece, the best friends, the tribe, it's so important to be able to leave the judgment at the door so that people can be truly vulnerable with you. And so you really know who they are and can help from that place. But it is, it is hard to not judge sometimes.
It's really hard to not go to the right or left. The Buddhists say, stay in the middle way, right? You have the razor's edge over here and over here, right? But if you can just kind of sit still and observe and then what you really are doing in that moment is creating so much space all the way around, right? Yeah. You're opening up all of this beautiful, amazing space for understanding, listening, being present. Brenda, you gals teach us so much about what a true friendship is, right? And I will tell you that there is a very, very small circle of people in my life who I will share the most reserved or personal things with, and you're one of them. And one of the main reasons why you have been one of those people is because you do this with me. You're fully present and you listen, and I actually know that you really care, right? Yes. So we talk about different levels of friendships, and you've been teaching us about different levels of friendships. And I think when you go to those soul sister people that are in your tribe, who really have your back, you can accept some questions from them or some love from them that might be a little bit of tough love, especially when they're not coming at you in a judgmental way. And the non-judgmental way is sitting in that middle space. And what you do when you sit there and you kind of let and allow, you create also space for that person to really come to you.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, such good stuff.
That's the God's business.
Yes, it
that
is.
Middle space. I really do think that middle space, when we find it, that's when we're doing God's business.
Yeah.
Well, so Tressen, if somebody has made the decision, if they know for sure that parting ways is inevitable, then what have you found as a strategy, the first things first sort of steps for keeping it amicable?
Yeah. So everything, where every single thing starts is within. Every single thing starts from within, right? So a lot of the time when we're going through this, or when you're hearing someone go through any thoughts of divorce or breakup of any kind, they're looking at what's going on outside of them and they're going, I really wish so-and-so would do that. I could be happy and I would stay if only they would do this, right? I'm angry about that, right? I'm angry about that. And all of the things are external, or most all of the time, because we got taught to believe, to look around us with our eyes and listen and hear and take in all of this information, right? As humans, we take in information on what it is that we're observing, right? And also then what we're feeling emotionally. So I think it's really, really important. The first step is to encourage the person to just go within, right? Where is my responsibility? If I want to have an amicable divorce, I'm not going to get it from the person who won't stop doing the stuff I want them to stop doing, right? So you start with yourself and you say, what am I going to stop doing? What things am I going to start doing? What things do I want to see happen? What clutter do I have in my life that needs to be removed out of the way before I can take such and such step, right? Where do I begin? What do I want? That is like the ultimate moment, right? That you get when you're just working on you. Because here's the thing, I can see someone outside of myself going through whatever it is they're going through. And, like my girlfriend, she's watching her husband have an addiction, right? She doesn't know what to do about it. And really, she can't actually do anything about that addiction for him. He has to be the one to decide that it's up to him to make a change with that, right? Now, the great ending to the story is that they actually did. They made it. He decided that he wanted to stay with that. So But she decided that running around and doing whatever she was doing was not serving her. And then she made a plan. So you start with your own internal plan and you say, this is the way I choose to live my life, regardless of anything that you do. Your goals and your dreams and your visions cannot be dependent on one single person's actions outside of yourself. You have to take 100% full responsibility for yourself. To be amicable, to show up to the mediation in an amicable way, right? To learn tools from your coach, how to respond instead of react, right? Divorce is such a reactive moment. I mean, they're repeated moment after moment after moment. And then it goes back in. Well, what internal work am I doing when I'm reactive, right? Am I noticing that I'm even reactive, or am I responding? Why am I reacting? Freaking out, getting mad, all this stuff, instead of just taking a look and going, wow, you're a lot to deal with right now. I think maybe I need to step back, let go, and say yes to myself right at this moment, right? Because the thing that feels the best to me is an amicable feeling. What would I love? What would I love? Keep going back. What would I love to see here? What would I love? Literally, you can't remember, our brain only focuses on one thing at a time. You cannot sit there and give that person hell if you're in a state of love, right? And where do we go? Internal self-love, right? If you're sitting there all loving yourself, even though you have all this chaos going on outside of you, it will help you think better. You're going to be able to respond in a better way. It's so challenging to do it. You can't achieve anything like that unless you decide that it's a practice of your life.
I was just going to say it's a decision, and then you have to practice.
Exactly.
But like anything else.
Yes. It just doesn't just happen, especially when you keep taking that same neural pathway that you've been used to all of this time, right?
Right.
And you know what's so funny is that sometimes when you become amicable yourself, your whole world changes and you don't end up getting a divorce anyway.
Wow.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
So
I bet. Love it. What great advice. I mean, we could really talk for hours, right?
Yeah.
We could keep this going, but we always wrap up a little bit. And I want you to, if there's any like closing tip you want to give, great, but it sounds like you did already. But we always ask our guests, how do you tribe? How do you tribe, Tressen?
Well, I'm tribing right now. That's what I'm doing. I love it. I think, the way that I have grown into the tribe that I'm with is by choosing people who uplift and support, people who are healthy themselves, people who understand and know that it does begin with them. So I don't think your tribe has to be big. I think that it's a few small, really key people, like the people that are right here, who uplift and support and are honest with you in their communication, and who also challenge you to become your best version of yourself, right? It's already living in there. It's just uncovering it is what it is that we're doing. And so I think how I tribe is by surrounding myself with people who I can be there for to do that, and who will do the same for me.
Absolutely. Well said. Perfectly said.
Thank you, Tressen.
Thank
Counting
you guys. This is so awesome. I love it.
It is awesome.
Well, I think I have one more thing for you, Tressen. Besides how do you tribe, how do we get in touch with you when we have someone that we are trying to help through this situation, or others of our listeners have someone that needs this kind of help and doesn't have as full of a tribe as we do?
Right. Well, I love that question, and thank you for asking me that. I can be found on Facebook at Lovin Life Coaching, and that's without the apostrophe in the Lovin. And there's a lot of free content on that site that may be valuable to someone who's looking for a way. You can contact me directly through that. you can get in touch with me through you guys. We can put a link down below. And I also, for local folks, give a live talk about once a month locally. And so there'll be posts on that, on where you can connect with me. I do have 3 different offerings for people who are looking. One of them is just getting really, really clear on what it is you want to do. And then a program that's about a 90-day program to help walk you through all of these things and really set some new pathways for yourself that are lasting, right? And then after that, basically a program to help support you on your new identity after your divorce, because that is definitely a thing. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been such a pleasure having Tress with us today. And, you know, when 3 or more gather, we are strong.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it. Mwah. Mwah. Until next time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Find Your Lady Tribe. Would you do us a favor and hit that like button and add a comment? It'll really help us grow.
Better yet, find the share arrow and share out to your tribe. Join us again next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast service.